So I heard that you got weak ass sounding vocals and you want to level up your game. Well, I'm here to help you with no bullshit, straight into the point. Let me show you how I do it in real time. This is my own song. It's called Dead Alive. You can go check it out. I'm doing a remix. I'm remixing this song just for you so I can show you how I mix my shit. Alright? This is what the mix sounds like. It's not completely finished yet, so it might sound like shit, so don't judge me. So these are the vocals that we're working with. These are metal vocals. That's just pretty much what you came for. Some aggressive, heavy fucking vocals, right? The way that I recorded them, I do a center, at least for this track. Now I would do it a little bit differently. I wouldn't do as much like layering, but this was supposed to be very a modern recording. So this is usually and typically how a lot of modern recordings look like. So we got center vocals here. We got two main vocals, which is the main center vocals, but dubbed over, and they're panned 50% right and left, and then same deal, but this one is panned 100% left and right. So we kind of get best of both worlds, having, you know, a little bit of width, but, you know, it's a little bit more center, and then if I want something huge and fucking wide and massive, then I get the right and left 100%, and then we just got the center vocals if I just want things just to be straightforward. But I don't really use it a lot. There's only a few parts where the center vocals are really doing it by themselves. So like right here, right? There's nothing happening here. You know, but most of it, as you can see, is all just dubbed. Because that's just what I was going for. But first, we're not going to focus on these dubs. We're going to focus getting the main center vocals sitting in the mix right. And I'm going to show you how I do that. I'm not going to talk as I do it because I have to mute my microphone because I'm mixing all my speakers. I mix all my speakers because I'm able to hear things a little bit more accurately instead of using headphones. And it doesn't damage my ears. That's really important when you're mixing. You don't want to damage your ears. So it's important to keep, you know, like to have my speakers playing so they're not up against my ears so I can keep it at a good volume. Otherwise, when you're mixing with headphones, I'll put on headphones here and there so I can like hear what's going on if I want to hear something up close. But I typically get more headroom and like more like space. Like I got more control to what's going on and what I'm hearing when I'm using speakers. So I mix on speakers. If you got speakers, please mix with them. Don't just mix on headphones. You're gonna fuck your eardrums. Here's what these vocals sound like.
I'm under conscience of warfare. I feel all this pressure. Will you fall into pieces of two?
So as you can tell, the vocals themselves are like extremely dry. There's absolutely no processing or anything that is hitting the vocal chain as I was bringing it through. It's just going through an interface and directly into the DAW. The interface that I'm using, or I was using, was a Euphoria UMC 1820 Behringer interface. It's an 8-channel interface. It's dirt fucking cheap. It's nothing crazy. So let's get it sounding like it was ran through a fucking Neve. Alright, let's get it done. Okay, so I got the vocals finished. I got a lot going on, but I still have the mindset less is more. I'm doing a lot of coloring and shaping, and also taming some stuff first before I actually start like actually mixing and trying to fit it in the mix a little bit. I'm kind of doing both of coloring and mixing, kind of hand in hand. I don't know. It's a little weird. Okay, so first we got a leveling tool, alright? That's doing a lot of controlling, less more than shaping. I think up until the saturation plugin, I'm doing a lot of shaping. Making sure that vocals are ready and set. Kind of like how producers and sound engineers run vocals through an analog chain, like through a compressor and then a limiter and some EQ first before it even hits the the DAW. I'm kind of having the mindset of that, but with just in the box. So I'm running this through a leveling tool. It's basically like a limiter. It's not really a compressor, but it kind of acts as a compressor. It's very weird. It's free. It's from ADHD Audio Tools. And basically, all it does is, like, if my volume gets loud, it ducks it down. It practically works as a compressor, but it doesn't compress the audio like a compressor does. It basically just turns, when the vocals get louder, it ducks the volume down. And it kind of sounds like a compressor. I don't know. Add the peak reduction all the way up so you can see what it's doing. See what I'm talking about? It sounds compressed, but it's really not. It's just ducking that volume down. So when I'm doing like really, really like loud parts, like say like in a breakdown, like I'm screaming and the mic is clipping, this way it will prevent the mic or the audio from clipping when I add all my processing in. And you don't get that clippy, distorted sound that sounds horrible. Sometimes it sounds good, but not all the time. This is just a way to control it. And then I'm using also another thing to control my vocals is adding a de-esser, because I'm going to start adding all this shit on my vocals, all this compression and all this processing, so I want to make sure I have all this stuff tamed. So first I tamed it with a leveling tool, and then I'm taming it with a de-esser. This is just to get rid of that sibilance, like all the S's and the T, like all that whoosh, you know what I'm saying? So I'm already getting rid of a lot of that. Some people with vocals, what I see, like people that are new to doing vocals, what they'll do is they'll start to EQ it immediately and start compressing everything, and like you need to tame your vocals first. You want to put the leash on the dog. You know, dog that has rabies, man. You want to control the situation. You know what I'm saying? Same way with vocals. You got this crazy fucking vocal range that's distorted and saturated, but you also got parts where they're like, you know, quiet and clean sometimes, you know. So it's like metal vocals are all over the place. You want to make sure you have them tamed. You want to make sure you can control them first before you start throwing it into the fire. Like, what I mean by that is adding like all your EQ and compression, you know, and all that saturation. So by doing these two things first, I'm really controlling a lot, like with my volume and some harsh sibilance. And then I'm now just starting to add some EQ, and all I'm really doing is shaping the EQ or the vocals by just doing a low pass, getting rid of some of that mud, getting rid of some of that boxiness, and just some high end I don't need because my cymbals are going to clash over that. Now I'm actually starting to shape it a little bit better, adding 1176, okay? It's on an 8 ratio of 8. Alright, release is slow, the attack is pretty fast. The reason why I choose 1176 for any vocals, you can use 1176 for any vocals. It's the best fucking compressor you can use for vocals. But it's such a fast compressor. And like the way that the compressor just compresses in a way, it's just like, it's great. Because sometimes, like with this compressor, because it works so damn fast, like you can use it as like a very subtle compressor, but it's like you can use it, you can drive the shit out of this compressor and process anything like crazy, like a fucking distressor or like a fucking LA2A. Like, you can really crank this fucking thing because it works so fast, but you can also make it super subtle and not too crazy. And that's what I like about this. Like, you have so much control over what you want to do, and it's not like overbearing. It's great. It's amazing. So that's why I used it. I'm using it. I'm trying to be subtle with it, but also enough to add it a little bit of color. I'm not trying to do too much, but just enough to add a little bit of color. And then I kind of I'm taking this multi-band saturation. I'm not doing anything to low end. I don't want any low end build up. especially in the saturation, that's just gonna sound like shit, and it's gonna build up in the mix. So I don't want that. So what I'm doing here, mid range and high end, it's adding that glue, especially after that 1176. And if that wasn't enough, we are going straight into a de-esser. I just wanted to just push and drive the shit out of these vocals to like make them shine. It's a very modern, heavy mix, so I want to make sure that it sounds processed. All right. So I'm running it through another compressor. I am again slow attack, fast release. I'm driving it with just say I didn't change the input. I kept it at 5. And then I'm just doing some gain compensation on the output here. I also turn up the vocals a little bit because when you use a compressor will duck down your audio, like your volume, so you want to just bring that up a little bit. I also remember when I first started doing, like, learning compression, I'm like, I never compress my vocals because it sounds like shit. And like I realized, oh, what if I just turn this up? Oh, now I can hear the compressor, because like every time I'm like, dude, I can't hear anything. It's too quiet. Just use your output. Use that gain compensation, alright? So I think right here with the de-esser, or the distressor, not the de-esser. Oh my goodness, I can't talk today. But the distressor right here, I think this boosts. This is like an EQ boost, and I think it's like 6K. I have to reread the manual. I didn't read it all, but I think that's what it does. It does like a compression EQ in that range, and then I'm doing a high pass filter, and then this compressor comes with like some like saturation, so I just put it on distorted 3 because it's a very aggressive vocal. And now I'm coloring and shaping the tone some more with some EQ. I'm actually bringing a lot of that mid-range and high range up. I'm not doing anything with the low end. I'm actually cutting some boxiness here. And then I'm doing a low pass filter and a high pass filter here. Basically almost the same thing as this, just with like more going on here, like over here. And then I'm also boosting like over here. That's basically what I'm doing for that, if you can't understand the knobs. If you need a visual, that's what's going on. And then I'm also getting rid of some harsh frequencies, like even more boxiness. I'm using a dynamic EQ because it was really bad. Like, it's still so predominant in the mix. And then there's all like these horrible frequencies. They're horrible.
Save you all! Bring forth the sins that you all You all bring forth the death and sin that you.
It just sounds really bad. And then I'm also boosting a little bit of lows because I realized I'm really scooping the boxiness. You know, I boosted a lot of the high end, even with the saturation. So I'm like, I really want to compensate some of that low end a little bit, kind of make it still sound full instead of it making it sound thin. So I just figured, boost some low end there. And then after, because I processed all that shit again, I used some EQ, I'm using a distressor, I'm using the Saturn, right? So I figured, okay, it's time for another de-esser. I'm not using it too much, I'm just slightly, I'm not trying to use it as much as this de-esser right here, because it's really doing much of the heavy lifting. But just the tame, just play it safe, because when you're wearing like really cheap earbuds or like headphones or really cheap speakers, it can be predominant in the mix, especially when you got small speakers like phones too. So it's always just a good idea to put an extra de-esser in there, especially if you're processing the shit out of everything. So just put an extra de-esser in there. Don't do too much, just a little bit. As you can see, it's still picking up stuff. Not as much, but it's still picking up stuff. And then this is just multi-band compressor. It's just to control the whole thing overall. All I really am doing is controlling like the subs and the low end, and then I'm expanding the mid-range more and a little bit of the high end to add some air. I might come back to this later. I might compress it. I don't know yet. I'll have to find out. But now, that's just the vocals themselves. I usually get like that really nice sound, the glue it in the mix with my bus. So I'm now gonna do my bus so it glues a little bit better. I'll show you how I'm doing that. So basically I like to just make it easier on myself. I could, but this saves a lot of time. I just throw this thing on here, okay? It's Howard Benson vocals, and all it basically is like some EQ and like a vocal bus that has a de-esser another built-in de-esser, has grit, like, which is like a saturation thing. And it's got compression, which this compression is awesome, by the way. It's got tube warmth. It's got input dial. It's got like this gain. You can do like an auto makeup gain. You got EQ multiplier width, which I really only use this thing for like my output, my EQ, my vocals, and like the width. I like to make my vocals a little bit wider while keeping in mono, so it makes it sound bigger. I don't really use this stuff as much, like the modulation, except the width, the spacer stuff. Listen how the vocals just sound full with this thing. This thing's awesome.
The lights inside that you good morals. You're shouting down and know that you're all the same. You pay for the anti-class to come in.
It got fucking big balls now. It's like everything that I just did. And that's why you want to control. This is why you want to control your vocals first. That's why I was adding like that leveling tool and that de-esser and like all this EQ to tame a lot of those like harsh frequencies, dude. This is why, because I add something like this that brings it up. If I didn't control that, all the bad things that I got rid of is going to be so predominant, and it's going to be annoying, and I'm going to be like, why do my vocals suck? Well, it's because you didn't put it on a leash first. So I'm starting to hear a massive difference from the original dry vocals themselves. And then now I know I added a lot of processing, but it's because they're very dry vocals. There was no like actual like I wasn't using any crazy preamps or anything. It was just going directly into the interface. And like this mix is a very massive mix, very modern, so it needs that extra like push. I don't like doing this. I really hate it. I don't like adding a lot of stuff to it. But if you have the mindset of like, I need to keep it controlled, I need to add some color, and I need to mix it, and to make sure it fits in the mix, that stuff can start to add up. But if I'm pretty sure if I didn't have the mindset of less is more, there would have been so much more on here than there should have been. Mainly because this right here, and then this right here. If I were to just be like, let me try to get this to sound good, I probably, like my natural instinct, if I didn't have any knowledge, I would have slapped like 5 freaking compressors, 20 EQs. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't be tedious, the best that I could be with what I'm doing. Like, I wouldn't have added this de-esser here. I wouldn't have added, you know, like this multi-band or another de-esser, or, you know, I wouldn't have my EQ looking like this. It would probably be one like, oh, I'm gonna boost here, I'm gonna boost here, boost here, boost here. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's still very minimalist that it can possibly be. So, like, but, I mean, there's nothing wrong with adding a lot of plugins. It is the only issue with so many plugins is if you're just adding shit just to add stuff. Like, you're not adding stuff to have that whatever it is to have its own purpose. Like, if you're gonna add something, you better have a reason to be adding it, man. Like, you don't want to just add it just, oh, I seen this dude online add 20 EQs. I'm gonna do the same thing as him without actually giving yourself a reason. Why am I adding this to my vocal chain? And that it's the same rule applies with anything. But I also need to go over and explain what's going on my bus here. I'm not doing a whole lot on my bus, and I'm kind of going pretty bare bones with just the ozone because that's just what works, especially for the type of mix that it is. I could use some other plugins if I wanted to, but I wasn't trying to, go plugin searching and try to figure something else. I just wanted to get it done. So, and that's what it takes when you're mixing stuff. Get it done as fast as possible. But take your time, though. Take your time. But yeah, it's very minimalist. There's not a lot going on because there's already a lot by this. Just this plugin is already doing a lot. So this plugin right here is Howard Benson Vocals. It is the best freaking vocal plugin you could ever get. Honestly, I think this is like the only thing you really even need for vocals. And like maybe some like EQ, extra EQ, or like a de-esser. And that's like basically it. Because you literally have everything you need. Like, you got compression, you got saturation, you got a de-esser, built-in de-esser. So maybe, you don't even need a de-esser, really. Actually, I don't even know what I'm talking about. Like, you got all this modulation. Like, you got everything. You don't need anything else. Right? I could probably slap this on here and still make a very good mix out of this. But that's not what I went for. I decided to add more because I'm fucking crazy. I'm nuts. Anyways, this whole plugin, basically what I'm using this for is to bring everything I have here, like the center, the mids, and the 100% panned vocals, like all the pan vocals and stuff. Everything that I did with these vocals here is to basically bring it up in the mix more. It's to give it that extra like gristle. It's basically putting the hairs on the nutsack, man, and you're basically putting the hair on the chest. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's for. It's basically the sprinkles on the ice cream. All right, that's what it's doing. All right, I'm adding that extra compression, I'm adding that extra saturation. You know what I'm saying? I'm adding a little bit of extra EQ to it. I'm adding some like width to the whole thing. And then I could do some parallel stuff with this and some automation with this stuff, which I'd probably do right now, like some volume automation and some like effects and stuff. I'd probably do that next. But because that's not the idea of the video, even though it is mixing and that's part of mixing. But I just want to show you how to fit vocals in a mix. And yes, doing automation, and I explained this before, like with drums and stuff, like anything, using automation is so important to make your mix better. But right now, I'm just showing you how to shape your vocals and shape your vocals and shape your tone of the vocals and how to color it and fit it in a mix, like, without having to sacrifice quality or ruining it and making it sound worse. Because people think, I'm going to add all these plugins and make it sound better, when you're, in reality, you're forgetting to do a lot. There's steps. Like, you can add color, but, there's a sacrifice to that. You're also boosting, like, you're also processing and boosting this vocal signal that needs to be tamed first, that needs to be, like, taken care of and put in place before you even start adding all this stuff to it. It's like people want a nice looking house, but they completely forget to build the foundation. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, I guess the foundation would actually be like whatever the mic itself is going through and how you use the mic itself. Like, that would be, to me, that would be the foundation. Like, what am I running the mic through first? Like, am I just running it through an interface, or if I'm running the mic through like some preamps? Like, what type of mic am I using? What type of vocals am I using? Like, that to me would be the foundation. But in this setting, the vocals are already done. The vocals are already here. Now, what is my foundation to control the vocals and make sure it fits in the mix? Like, that, to me, in this scenario, that's my foundation. And my foundation to do that was to control the volume, control a lot of the syllables, control a lot of this stuff here. But at the same time, I'm able to add all this color and all this saturation, but I'm still keeping it controlled. So, I feel like a lot of people miss that. Because if I were to just add all the compression and all that EQ without controlling, and then I slap this sucker on here, actually, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you what would it sound like if I didn't. So let me show you. Let me take all this stuff that I'm using to control the whole thing.
Please grass! Please grass! Not under conscience of warfare! I feel all this pressure! Will you fall into pieces of two? Are broken! Which sides will you choose? The illusion is in denial! Are broken! Which sides will you choose? The illusion is in denial! Is it choose to work for you?
I noticed a lot going on in the high end. Like, it was really harsh in the high end. It was really just like out of place. It did sound a little open. Like, I can hear like the whole thing going on, but like, it's a lot of harshness. There's a lot of mud and buildup going on. So just controlling that helps the overall mix, not the vocals themselves. I know that sometimes when you solo, like whatever it may be, so like vocals for instance, and you're like, wow, these vocals sound like shit. Why do they sound this bad? But when you put it in a mix, you're like, oh, okay, I guess they don't sound bad after all. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for whatever fits in the mix, not what sounds good by themselves. So, that's a good sign. So anyways, after the Howard Benson stuff, I'm running it through tape. I'm basically adding some harmonic saturation and distortion to the whole thing going on, just driving it some more if it wasn't already enough. And then to control that, I'm using this tame harshness thing. Like I said, I was adding so much harmonic saturation. This helps kind of tame it. It's kind of like Soothe. Not really. I wish I had Soothe, but super expensive. And then I'm running it through a vintage compressor. I just used this preset here. It says forward mid-ranged. I really wanted the mid-ranged on my vocals to be more predominant in the mix, a little bit more glued, so I added this compression and then some EQ. Again, kind of the same idea, high and mid-range boosts. Nothing in the low ends. I think I was cutting. Oh yeah, I'm cutting a little bit of low end here in 20 hertz. Getting rid of that subby stuff I don't need. And that's it. That's all it is.
anti-Christ coming to save you all. Bring forth the death and sin that you all rejected. It's in denial. It's a true word for you. Pain. Yes, will count. Which doors will you choose? The abortion of the vile nephew fall into pain. Stop the broken. Which side will you choose? The illusion is in denial. It's a true word for you. Pain. Yes, will count. Which doors will you choose? The abortion of the vile nephew fall into
Alright, well, as you can tell, there's a massive difference that I just did there. It also goes to show, like, you don't really need expensive gear to make great music. It may not be as good as you want it to be, but you can still, with good knowledge, good know-how, you can make it work. Though there is a lot going on. If you had some, like, really nice, expensive Neve preamps or an SSL console, you'd probably get some really nice sounding vocals just by themselves, especially if you had like a de-esser, not a de-esser, I mix up de-esser and distressor all the fucking time. I mean distressor. If you had like a distressor, like a Neve with an EQ and shit, oh my god, 1176 maybe, run the vocals through that, you probably get a really nice vocal. It's probably like, if you know what nail the mix is, it's like, you go and pick off their stems, right? And you listen to the vocals. You're like, damn, how do these vocals sound so good? Because like, you're recording off like a crappy, cheap interface that you bought for like $100 on Sweetwater, when like these people got like these 300,000 fucking SSL consoles and these preamps that they're running it through. So there's a difference there, and that's something else I want to mention about vocals. By the way, like. And with anything, if you're recording anything, what the most important thing is, if you want to get a good sound, is like, what are you running that thing through? Like, what is that piece of gear running through? Because there's going to be a huge difference between $100 interface to, like, even something like maybe a Focusrite that has its own built-in preamps, and then there's going to be a difference between that from like a Neve preamp going into like an Apollo interface or like an RME interface. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not the same, obviously, because if you had those preamps and you had that really nice interface, you're going above and beyond, man. You're getting like that nice color and that nice saturation and all the goodness from the interface, because it's picking up every single nuance. You can hear everything that's going on, and you're actually hearing everything accurately, and it's picking up everything that the mic is picking up accurately. And like, you infuse that with the preamp, right, with all that color and all that extra like goodness from it, you're obviously gonna get a better signal going into your DAW than if you were to just run it through like something that I have that's like a Euphoria UMC 1820 interface. That's what I have. I will say it again. I know it's a lot, it's a mouthful, but that's what I used, and that's what I could afford, because I'm not a crazy engineer and had to learn these things. And then maybe someday I might be able to get gear like that and make some badass fucking mixes. But, you gotta learn, do it in the box. You gotta use the free stuff, man. You gotta use what you have. And that's, and if you can try your best to bring, like, the direct signal, like, everything going into your, like, DAW, like, your vocals, you're gonna get a good sounding mix. You can't polish a turd. So that's like the most important thing you could ever do. But even after all that, if you're going through cheap and expensive gear, that's what you're gonna get. You're gonna get like this really dry, direct signal that has no color, that's really flat, that sounds like this.
The voice inside that you good morals. You're shouting down and know that you're all the same. You pay for the anti-class comment.
But then you can make it sound good by adding all this processing, and then layering too as well. It makes it sound better. You can fucking work with it, man. And it kind of, if you're not careful with it, there's nothing wrong with adding color. Like if you're running through a preamp, right, with your microphone, and then you're running a compressor through it as well before it even hits the interface into the DAW. Like, you got to be sometimes got to be careful with that, because you're manipulating the audio before it goes in. So like you got to kind of have to dedicate your vocals or your tone or whatever for what it is, because once it's done with, that's what you got to work with, because it's what you use. But when you do like a direct signal, like you got a lot of room, you have a lot of control based on what you can do. So there's pros and cons to it. But technically, would it be better if you did have a really nice preamp or a compressor before going into the interface? Of course you would, as long as you know what you're doing, and as long as you can dedicate whatever it is that you're running it through. I mean, I guess you technically could run, like if you had a splitter, you could run the direct signal through like another channel, just like straight through the interface. So you could have like one that's like colored, and then you can have a direct signal. I don't know. But yeah, enough with my ranting. That's how you do it. That's how you get great sounding vocals. Is control them first. Control your vocals first, and then you can start to like process them. But don't go too heavy on the processing as much as you would do on your bus. But when you go on your bus, you can go heavy, but keep everything very minimal. Like, you don't want to like do too much, but you want to do too much. You know what I'm saying? Like, if that makes sense. So control everything first. Add the color, shape your tone of the vocals for second, and then you can mix it. Make sure it fits and sits well in the mix, and then your master bus is the sprinkles. You know what I'm saying? That's how you do it. And then also some tips. Like I said, whatever you're running it through is what you're going to get. Layering your stuff can help and improve your vocals. Depends on what you're going for. And I'm not going to show you this part because it's really time consuming, and I'll probably just make another video on that because it's already been an hour and 20 minutes that I've been recording. You can do volume automation. You can do automation with the plugins and then add like all your vocal effects and make things sound cooler than they are. But the main point of this video was to make sure that your vocals can sit in a mix, and that you can take really dry vocals that were ran through inexpensive gear and make it sound like it wasn't ran through an expensive gear. It was ran through like a Neve console or something. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess you really can't replicate something that has been ran through an inexpensive gear and make it try to sound like a Neve console. You can't really do that. You can't really replicate that. But it's the idea that you can still make something sound good even if you had an expensive gear, even though maybe the results are not even nearly as close, but you can still make it work. That's the whole point of this video. Okay, I'm gonna go now. I hope that was really helpful and full of information. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.